We are now going to take you through our What the Papers Say segment, which is usually our first segment of the morning from day 2 of Sibos onwards. But before we do that, let me introduce you to our guests. First of all, Brigitte De Wilde is the head of AML and Sanctions Initiatives at SWIFT. Also with us is Heather McKenzie. She's the editor at Daily News at Sibos. Chris Hall is the news editor at Sibos Issues, and David Bannister is the editor of Banking Technology. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we get into what these guys have brought along, of some of the highlights, what were the papers yesterday, I want to start with you, Brigitte, because we're kicking off the Compliance Forum today. Tell us what you've got in store for Sibos 2013.
Thank you. Well, indeed, we have our second edition of the Compliance Forum starting today. Last year was sort of like a program, but not an official program. We were on the agenda, but sort of not on the agenda. This year, you know, it's a fully fledged 2-day program. We have 5 main sessions. We structured this in a way that we want to take the people interested in these sessions on a journey. Start with, you know, taking stock from what have we learned since last year, and then looking at what actions have banks taken, what are they concentrating on, focusing on. We'll also zoom into the region, because we are in the Middle East, so how is all this regulatory evolution impacting this region specifically, also in Africa. And there will also be more practical sessions where we show how SWIFT can help the community by providing solutions. And I guess we'll conclude by, you know, looking at next year, how can we build the agenda next year? Where are we? What do we think we will see as we go along for next year?
Okay, well, thanks very much for explaining that. We wish you best of luck with it. Stick around, because it will be interesting to hear some of your views on what the papers say session. And let's start with you, Heather, if we can, first of all. And you've brought along an article for us to look at in the Daily News at Sibos, and it's about financial inclusion. We actually had Roger from the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation chatting to us about the unbanked and how banks could get more into helping these people. What are some of the things that they should be doing? Tell us about this story.
Well, this is a theme that's been developing over the past few years, and possibly tied to the financial crisis, and perhaps the banks needing to you know, freshen up or improve their image somewhat to the public. But financial inclusion was described in the session yesterday by Anne Cairns of MasterCard as a basic human right, that financial services should be viewed as a basic human right for people, and a way to enable people to try to come out of poverty by having access to financial services. And I've spoken to Roger as well in the past, and he talks about this idea of a life event that you know, can kind of plunge people back into poverty because they don't have access to finance. So I think it's a really interesting aim of the banks now, or some of the banks, to actually look at unbanked people or underbanked people, and use different channels such as mobiles to actually reach out to those people and provide them with services.
Well, we actually at Sibos TV roamed the halls of the exhibition, and we found a few people to give us some of their ideas on how they think the banks should get more involved in helping the unbanked. Here's what they had to say.
I think technology is a big enabler here. You know, the entire electronic transfer, mobile banking. I think that's the wait for it to go, because banks, the cost of doing business for banks is much higher than non-banks. So unless we use technology, we would not be able to do it in a profitable manner.
We're really seeing the cost of infrastructure required in order to service that very low margin business as being the biggest issue.
Some of the barriers that we encounter as a bank is obviously the area of KYC and making sure that we are fully compliant.
Bankers in India are in constant dialogue with the regulators, requesting them to relax the KYC and anti-money laundering norms to the extent possible to facilitate quicker inclusion.
With the biometrics technology coming in and ICT technologies, information and communication technologies, I think this is a perfect model for financial inclusion.
The thing we're going to have to address though is security, because there are significant security issues that come with this type of technology.
If banks look at it as a commercial proposition, they'll be more motivated to do it, make investments in it, commit resources to it.
they think their responsibility is to do something for the larger society, and towards that, it's being seen as one social obligation. At the same time, it's also an excellent business opportunity, no doubt about it.
Comments there. Any thoughts?
You've got the financial inclusion and unbanked being talked about for a while, there's UN mandates and so forth. But there's also the KYC issues we've talked about and the sanctions and the role of SWIFT in the middle of that. And I was very struck by the security aspect of that. There's a figure on Sibos issues from Tony Hayward, of CIO of JP Morgan, saying that JP Morgan's going to spend $250 million on upping its cybersecurity. And in fact, it actually says another $250 million over the next few years. And that's just a staggering sum of money. It puts the scale of the problem. And then when you add mobile technology into that and the ubiquity, it becomes a real nightmare. And I think this clash of technology and the desires of the community to extend and collaborate is really going to put some frightening challenges up.
I think, I agree with David. I think that the relationship between so-called global banks and local banks and the technology providers and indeed SWIFT play a role in this as well really does have to change so that these opportunities in these new markets can be grabbed. Because I think if people kind of stick too closely to what they know and to their existing infrastructure, then they won't grab a commercial opportunity, and they won't serve, and the people who are unbanked now will continue not to be served by the banking sector.
Yeah, and Chris, you brought an interesting story as well, and I'll just hold it up to everybody. Searching the soul of SWIFT.
Yeah, that's in Sibos Issues this year. We're running a series of columns by independent commentators. We have John Goubert, who's a well-known industry spokesman. Today we had Dominic Hobson yesterday, and we've got Chris Skinner, who's been speaking at the InnoTribe sessions. He's writing a couple of columns for us later in the week. John's point really is very much that he says that there's kind of two main barriers that are kind of stopping banks taking the opportunities, and I think he feels that SWIFT has a role in kind of breaking them both down. One is simply the kind of bank's reluctance to collaborate, but on the other hand is a scarcity of trusted third parties who can encourage the banks to use new technology to communicate with themselves with each other more effectively, and third-party utilities, so that the back ends of those kind of necessary kind of technology infrastructures are fully integrated, and the cost is mutualized and shared, so that it isn't as expensive to kind of take hold of new opportunities.
And we're in the Middle Eastern region, and Heather, you brought something about the Afghanistan banking here in your article. Afghanistan has its own bright banking future. Tell us about this article.
Well, we were quite interested to see on the exhibition floor that the Afghanistan Banking Association is here this year, and hopefully for many years to come. But they're very keen to let people know that Afghanistan is a place to invest in, and to for the banks to form partnerships with the banks in Afghanistan, and sort of on that theme of financial inclusion and looking at countries where possibly people, whatever the perception of Afghanistan is, it's probably not bright, but the gentleman who's here from the Afghanistan Banking Association is very keen to let people know that actually it's a functioning economy, and there are business to be done there.
And we always end what the papers say with some lighter notes, if you like. And I was interested, David, to see something about you. There's some pictures that you always do, and some captions with some of the pictures in this publication. And it says, this is the one for anybody who wants to pick a copy of. And it says, Mr. Bannister, your afternoon tea has arrived. What do they mean by that?
I don't know, and I'll certainly be asking Heather afterwards. This is the grin of someone who's been got by the caption writers at Sibos Daily News, and I'm trying to take it in the good spirits in which it's meant. No one is safe from the caption writers.
Not even you.
Not even.
Not even you. And Chris, in Sibos Issues, you're doing quite an interesting reflections on today, tonight, and tomorrow. And I want to pick up on what I read with this lovely chap, Asava Lawrence at the Kenya Commercial Bank. He says, today I'm keen to find out what's going on in the industry. Tonight I have no real plans, and tomorrow I have a number of meetings. So if anybody wants to take this lovely chap, Asava Lawrence at Kenya Commercial Bank, invite him to a party. If not, he could come at Sibos TV and we'll go out. How about that? Okay, so thanks very much to all of you for joining us. Heather, I just wanted to pick up, you mentioned the wishing well that Swift is doing, and,
yes.
and it doesn't seem to be having, it seems to be
I think
getting
they're
a lot
quite
of traction.
keen for people to pop along onto the Swift stand and put their little token that was in the delegate bags to put those into the wishing well, because they will match the contributions that people put in for the charity that they're supporting. So that would be very good if people can remember that.
It's €10 per for everyone that kind of puts a coin in. It's 10 euros will go to the charity. So far, I think it's less than 1,000 people. So I think there's. I've got to admit, when I went to the Swift stand yesterday, I didn't put my coin in, but I'll be going back today. So
great.
That's what I'll be doing.
We're going to check in on you on that tomorrow. That's the first question I'm going to ask you tomorrow. What the papers say. Has everyone put in their money at the Swift stand in the wishing well? Thanks very much to all of you for joining us.